What if your worst nightmares weren't just nightmares? What if the things you dismissed as imagination, the shadows moving in the corner of your eye, the whispers in an empty room, were real? Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, unable to move, but knowing, feeling that you are not alone. Something is watching, something is waiting, and no matter how much you try to convince yourself it's all in your head. Tonight, we step into a story so terrifying, so chilling, that once you hear it, you'll never look at the dark the same way again. But be warned, once you enter this nightmare, there's no turning back. On-screen text, title of the video. They say that every legend, every horror story is rooted in truth. A forgotten tale passed down through hushed whispers, a warning disguised as fiction. But what if I told you that the story you're about to hear isn't just a figment of someone's imagination, that somewhere, hidden in the shadows of a cursed town, buried in the pages of history, this nightmare truly unfolded? At first glance, it was just another place, another town, another story. But those who lived there knew better. They felt it. The lingering presence, the unspoken terror, the invisible eyes that watched them when no one else was around. And those who dared to go searching for the truth never came back the same, if they came back at all. The tale you're about to hear is more than just words. It's a puzzle, a haunting echo of something too horrifying to be forgotten. Some claim it's merely a myth, a cautionary tale meant to keep us from venturing into the unknown. But others know the truth, because they've seen it, they've lived it, and now you will too. But before we step into the unknown, before we follow the trail of those who vanished without a trace, let me ask you one thing. Are you sure you want to hear this story? Because once you do, once you let it into your mind, it will never leave. It all started with a group of friends, young, adventurous, and fearless. They had heard the stories, the whispers about Ravenswood Forest, the strange disappearances, the chilling rumours passed down for generations. But to them, it was just that, rumours, a ghost story meant to scare the weak-hearted. And so, one autumn evening, they made a choice that would seal their fate forever. They weren't the first to enter these woods, but they would soon realise they might be the last to leave. At first, it was just a feeling, a creeping sensation of being watched. The rustling of leaves, the whisper of the wind, sounds that shouldn't have meant anything, but did. It wasn't long before the feeling turned into something worse. Dread. A suffocating, inescapable dread that wrapped around them like a vice. And then the real nightmare began. They thought they were just exploring an old legend. They thought they were in control. But the truth was much, much darker. Because something in that forest, something ancient, was waiting for them, watching, hunting. 4 friends, a weekend trip, a decision they would never have made if they had known the truth. For decades, Ravenswood had been the centre of disturbing rumours. People whispered about hikers vanishing without a trace, campers hearing strange voices at night, and locals who refused to enter after sundown. But no one could ever prove anything. No bodies, no evidence, just silence. Mark had heard the stories. He'd even read old news clippings about people disappearing. But he was the type who needed to see things for himself. Ghost stories are just that, stories, he had laughed. Sarah wasn't convinced. She had always believed in the supernatural, but she didn't want to be the one to back out and seem weak. Jason and Emily, they were just in it for the thrill. "Let's make it a challenge," Jason had joked. "Let's see if we can last the night." At first, everything seemed normal, just a quiet, empty forest. But then, little things started to feel off. Birds stopped chirping, the air felt thicker, even the wind refused to move. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath. "Did you hear that?" They brushed it off. Probably the wind, they told themselves, but deep down they knew something wasn't right. Then came the footprints, heavy, slow, but when they turned to look, nothing was there. They weren't alone. Something was watching. Something was waiting. That's when they saw it. What the hell was that? Panic set in. Every survival instinct screamed at them to run, but in which direction? The woods stretched for miles, and whatever was out there, it wasn't human. "Just run!" One by one, they vanished, swallowed by the darkness. The woods took them. "If you find this, don't come looking for us." They were never seen again. The search lasted weeks. Authorities combed every inch of the woods, miles of trees, rivers and caves. But there was nothing. No bodies, no footprints, no signs of struggle. It was as if they had simply ceased to exist. "If you find this, don't come looking for us." But the story didn't end there. We weren't alone. The stories were true. It's in the trees, watching, waiting. Don't go into the woods. Whatever you do, don't listen to the voices. Some mysteries are never meant to be solved. And now, the story is in your hands. What do you think really happened that night? Leave your theories in the comments below. Were the friends victims of a supernatural force or something far more terrifying? If you think this was terrifying, you haven't seen anything yet. Click on the next horror story if you dare, but be warned, once you start, there's no turning back.